a small kindness. The transport station was louder than usual. Ships came and went every few minutes, carrying humans and aliens to different parts of the galaxy. Lights flashed on the walls, announcements echoed in strange voices, and travelers hurried in every direction. Among them was David, an ordinary human, just another face in the crowd. But something about that day was not ordinary. The air felt heavy, like a storm was waiting just outside the glass dome. David had managed to find a seat in the waiting hall. He placed his small bag beside him and leaned back, trying to ignore the noise. Across from him, two children laughed and played with a hollow ball. A group of soldiers in silver armor marched past, their boots hitting the floor in perfect rhythm. Everyone moved as if nothing was wrong, yet hidden tension filled the place. Then he noticed the alien elder. The alien was tall but bent with age, his back curved like he carried a mountain. His skin was pale blue, covered in faint silver lines that glowed softly. He moved slowly, holding onto a cane that looked older than the station itself. Each step was painful. His face showed it clearly. The elder looked for a place to sit, but all the benches were full. People saw him, but they looked away. Some humans shifted uncomfortably, not wanting to get involved. A group of young traders laughed, whispering that aliens should get their own ships and not take human seats. Even some aliens avoided his eyes, pretending not to notice. David felt a sting of guilt. He looked down at his bag, then back at the elder. Something inside him pushed harder than his own comfort. Without thinking too much, David stood. "Sir," he said in a quiet voice, gesturing to his seat. "Please sit here." The alien elder froze. His bright eyes studied David for a long moment, as if measuring his soul. Slowly, he gave a small nod and lowered himself onto the seat with great care. Relief showed on his face as he rested his back against the bench. "Thank you," the elder whispered, his voice deep and tired but filled with weight, like ancient stone. David gave a small smile. "It's nothing." But to the alien, it was not nothing. His gaze lingered on David with an expression that was hard to read. Respect, recognition, a secret understanding. Around them, whispers spread. Some passengers shook their heads. One man muttered, "Always humans trying to look good." Another scoffed, "Why waste your seat on them?" But David ignored it. He felt no regret. Then the atmosphere of the station changed. The loud hum of engines dimmed. The chatter of travelers softened. A sharp metallic sound rang out, boots hitting the floor in unison. From the far end of the hall, a squadron entered. They were not ordinary soldiers. Their armor was black and crimson, shining under the lights. Their weapons were long and heavy, carried with trained precision. Helmets covered their faces, but their movement was like one living machine. Every step echoed, steady and powerful. The crowd fell silent. Even the traders stopped laughing. The squadron was feared across the stars, an elite force known for answering only to the highest leaders. And they were walking directly toward David. At first, he thought it was a mistake. He even stepped aside, thinking they wanted to pass. But they stopped right in front of him. Their leader raised one gloved hand and the squadron spread out in perfect formation, blocking all exits. Every eye in the station turned toward David. "Human." The leader's voice came out like thunder through his helmet. "You will come with us." David's heart pounded. People gasped. Some whispered that he was being arrested. Others looked away, too afraid to be connected to him. The alien elder, still sitting on the bench, watched in silence. His glowing eyes did not blink. He seemed to know something no one else did. David stood frozen, caught between fear and confusion. He had given up a seat, nothing more. Yet now an elite alien squadron had arrived for him, and deep inside, he felt that his life was about to change forever. The unexpected honor, the hall was silent. Only the heavy boots of the alien squadron echoed as they surrounded David. The red glow from their armor reflected in the wide eyes of the travelers. Some people hid their faces. Others whispered that the human was finished. David raised his hand slowly, His voice shook. Wait, I didn't do anything. The squadron leader stepped closer. The black helmet hid his face, but his voice came, sharp and cold. You are required. Required? The word made no sense. David's heart pounded. He looked toward the alien elder. The old figure sat calmly, his cane resting against his knees, his glowing eyes fixed on David with quiet intensity. Two soldiers moved to grab David's arms. He pulled back slightly, but there was no escape. Around him, passengers pressed against the walls, afraid to be near him. Someone muttered, "He must be a spy." Another hissed, "Humans can't be trusted." But then something impossible happened. The alien elder rose slowly from the seat David had given him. His movements were still heavy, but his presence filled the room like thunder. He lifted his cane, tapping it once on the floor. A strange sound spread through the air, like a deep note that vibrated in everyone's chest. The squadron froze. Then, as one, they dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the station. The soldiers bowed their heads, not to David, but to the elder. The elder's voice rolled through the silence. Rise, protectors. This human has shown what many have forgotten: respect, compassion, honor. The soldiers lifted their helmets, revealing faces marked with silver tattoos. Their eyes glowed faintly, the same as the elders. They looked not at him, but at David. The leader of the squadron lowered his weapon and stepped forward. Then, in front of the entire station, he did the unthinkable. He placed his fist across his chest and bowed. To you, human of honor. The crowd erupted in shocked voices. Some shouted in confusion, others in anger. What is this nonsense? A human honored by them? Impossible. David felt his mouth go dry. What are you talking about? I just gave him a seat. The elder turned, his eyes soft but heavy with meaning. And that small act carried the weight of 1,000 choices. Few would have done it, fewer still without expecting reward. David shook his head, almost laughing from disbelief. That's it? I just stood up. Anyone could have done it. Yet no one did, the elder said. His voice silenced the hall again. You did. That is why you are chosen. Before David could argue, the squadron formed around him, not as jailers but as guards. Their armor shone, their weapons held high in salute. The leader gestured toward the docking gates. The High Council will want to meet you. The crowd began to split, into two voices, half shouting that David was dangerous, half whispering in awe. Cameras from news drones hovered, capturing every second. Already the image of a human being honored by an alien elite was spreading across the networks. David's legs felt weak as the soldiers guided him forward. People pointed, some with hatred, some with wonder. He was no longer invisible. They reached the boarding ramp of a massive warship, black and silver, its engines humming like a beast ready to leap into the stars. The squadron lined the path. The elder walked beside David, leaning slightly on his cane. Why me? David whispered. The elder glanced at him with a faint smile. Because fate hides in small choices. Today, the galaxy will remember a seat. Tomorrow it may remember you. The ramp rose behind them with a metallic thud. The hall vanished. The crowd's noise faded. Only the endless stars waited outside. David sat inside the alien warship, his hands shaking. He had no idea where they were taking him, or why this was happening. All he knew was simple: a seat, a kindness, and now, an honor that could change everything. The test of loyalty. The alien warship moved silently through the dark. From the viewing window, David watched stars drift past like scattered diamonds. His hands gripped the edge of the seat. He had no idea where they were going, or what would happen when they arrived. The squadron sat around him in silence. Their armor gleamed faintly, their glowing tattoos giving them an almost ghostly look. No one spoke. Only the steady hum of the ship filled the air. Finally, the elder entered the chamber. His cane tapped softly against the metal floor. Though, bent with age, his presence was powerful, almost heavier than gravity itself. The soldiers stood immediately and lowered their heads. David tried to stand as well, but the elder gestured for him to remain seated. "You ask why this is happening," the elder said, his voice calm yet heavy with meaning. "The answer is simple. A galaxy divided needs someone who can stand between worlds, someone who chooses not with power but with heart." David shook his head. "I'm no leader. I'm just normal. I gave you a seat, that's all." The elder's glowing eyes narrowed slightly, "And yet, when no one else moved, you did. That is why we trust you. But trust is not enough. You must be tested." The words sent a cold shiver down David's spine. Tested? How? The elder raised his cane, and the floor beneath David's seat shifted. The walls around them dissolved into holographic panels, forming a wide arena. The soldiers stood at the edges, watching silently. In the center of the arena was a sealed training pod, a sphere of glass and steel. Inside was a young, alien child. Her skin was pale blue like the elder's, but her eyes were wide with fear. She pounded on the glass, trapped. David jumped to his feet. "She's inside, she can't breathe." The elder's voice rolled across the chamber. "Her pod has been sabotaged. If nothing is done, she will perish. Save her, and you prove your loyalty. Fail, and you prove you are unworthy." David's chest tightened. He ran forward, pressing his hands against the sphere. It was cold, unyielding. He looked around for a switch, a button, anything. But the surface was smooth. "Think, human," the elder said softly. "Use more than strength." The pod hissed. A thin mist began to leak from the bottom. The child coughed, her hands trembling as she hit the glass again. Time was running out. David forced himself to breathe. "Don't panic. Look closer." He studied the pod and noticed faint seams along one side, barely visible. He knelt and pressed his ear against the surface. A faint hum came from the lower panel, like a hidden lock. He pulled his small travel tool from his bag. With shaky hands, he pushed the edge of the blade into the seam. Sparks flew. The soldiers whispered among themselves, but none moved to help. "Come on," David muttered. "Open." The panel snapped, revealing glowing wires. His eyes darted across them. Red, green, silver. Which one? His mind screamed at him to hurry. The child's coughing grew weaker. He remembered something, an old safety manual from his job back on Earth. Red meant power. Green often meant life, support. If he cut the wrong one, the pod might collapse. Sweat dripped down his forehead. He grabbed the silver wire instead. It looked strange, different from the others, like it didn't belong. With one deep breath, he yanked it free. Pod hissed loudly, then split open. Air rushed inside. The child fell forward into David's arms, gasping but alive. The arena fell silent. The elder stepped forward, eyes glowing brighter than before. "You chose correctly. You saved not only her life, but her future. You prove that loyalty is not bound to blood or race, but to what is right." The soldiers struck their fists against their chests in salute. Their voices echoed, "Human of honor." But David could barely hear them. He looked down at the trembling child, then back at the elder. A question burned inside him. Was this only a test, or had someone truly tried to kill her, and if so, why? Human suspicion. The ship carried David back toward Earth. He should have felt relief, but instead his stomach twisted with unease. The image of the alien child gasping for air still haunted him. The elder had called it a test, yet David's gut told him someone truly wanted her dead. As the warship entered Earth's orbit, thousands of news drones swarmed like insects. Their lights flashed, capturing every angle. The galaxy had already seen the footage, David saving the alien child, the soldiers saluting him. Now humans looked at him in a different way, and not all of it was good. When the ramp lowered, he was greeted not with applause but with armed guards. Their uniforms bore the symbol of the Earth Defense Command. Behind them, reporters shouted questions. Are you working with them? Do you serve humans or aliens? Is Earth in danger because of you? David opened his mouth, but the questions crashed over him like waves. He was pulled away quickly into a dark vehicle. Inside, a general sat waiting. His uniform was sharp, his face carved with suspicion. General Harker had a voice like steel. You've made quite a show, Mr. David. The whole galaxy is talking. About you. David sighed. I didn't ask for this, I just gave up a seat. Harker leaned forward. And now you're the so-called human of honor. Do you have any idea what that means? The aliens want you as a bridge. But to us, that makes you questionable, David frowned. Questionable? I saved a child's life. Or staged it, Harker said coldly. Do you think we're fools? Maybe this is their trick, to turn one of our own into their symbol. If you're loyal to Earth, you'll do what we ask. David's chest tightened. And what's that? Simple, Harker replied. You'll keep close to that elder. You'll listen, observe, report. Every word, every secret, give it to us. Do this and you'll prove where your loyalty lies. David stared at him. The weight of the demand pressed down harder than the warship's gravity. Spy on the very people who had just trusted him? Betray the elder who had looked at him as more than just another human? He didn't answer. The general narrowed his eyes. You hesitate. That worries me. Before David could speak, the vehicle stopped. The doors opened to reveal a crowd of protesters. They held signs glowing with harsh words. Traitor to humanity. Alien pet. Earth first, they shouted and threw objects as the guards pushed David through. A bottle shattered at his feet. A young man screamed, We don't need your alien friends. The noise dug into David's chest like knives. Hours ago he had been honored. Now he was hated. The alien squadron formed a protective line, their presence only fueling the anger of the crowd. Cameras flashed. Some humans cheered, others booed. The world was splitting into two voices, and David was caught in the middle. That night, alone in a secured room, he stared at the ceiling. His mind raced. The elder's words echoed. Fate hides in small choices. Yet here he was, forced into choices far bigger than he could handle. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A shadow passed across the window. David froze. Slowly, he approached. There, on the balcony outside, stood a figure in dark armor, face hidden, weapon in hand. The glass cracked slightly as the intruder pressed against it. A low voice whispered through a hidden speaker, You do not belong to them, or to us. You belong to death. The shadow vanished into the night before David could react. He stumbled back, his heart racing. Fear gripped him, but another feeling burned stronger, certainty. Someone, human or alien, wanted him gone, and the war was only beginning. Betrayal in the stars. The alien flagship floated above Earth like a dark blade. Its metal skin shimmered with red lights and its engines hummed with quiet power. Inside, humans and aliens gathered for a rare event, a peace ceremony. David stood, near the elder, feeling the weight of every eye on him. Reporters streamed the event across countless star systems. Some called him a symbol of hope, others called him a danger. He wasn't sure which was worse. The elder raised his cane and spoke to the crowd. Today we prove that kindness can break walls. Today we show that humans and our kind can walk forward together. The words were noble, but David felt uneasy. The memory of the shadow on his balcony, the whisper of death, it still clung to him. His eyes scanned the hall. Guards stood in perfect formation. Diplomats smiled politely. Yet something felt wrong. Too perfect. Too calm. And then it happened. A sudden roar tore through the chamber. The walls shook. The lights flickered. Fire burst from the far side of the hall, throwing debris across the floor. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the air. David was thrown to the ground. The elder fell beside him. Soldiers rushed forward, weapons raised. The ceremony had turned into chaos. Through the smoke, David saw a figure running, cloaked, fast, carrying something that pulsed with red light. A bomb! Stop him! David shouted, but his voice was drowned by the panic. People screamed and scattered. Some guards chased, but the figure moved like a shadow, vanishing into a side corridor. David pushed himself up, coughing from the smoke. He ran after the shadow without thinking. His legs carried him down the corridor, the alarms guiding his steps. The figure darted through the passage but dropped something small, a metal tag that clattered on the floor. David grabbed it and froze. The symbol was clear, not alien but human. His stomach twisted. A human did this. The shadow turned sharply, disappearing into the docking bay. David followed, his heart hammering. The bay doors were open, showing the endless black of space. The figure leapt into a small craft, engines roaring to life. "Wait!" David shouted, but the craft blasted into the void, leaving fire trails behind. Behind him, alien guards rushed in. "He's the saboteur!" one shouted, pointing at David. David's eyes widened. "No, it wasn't me. I tried to stop him." But the tag in his hand burned like poison, proof of human involvement. And in their eyes, he was the only human. There. The soldiers raised their weapons. In that instant, the elder entered, coughing but alive. He lifted his cane. "Hold!" His voice boomed even through the alarms. The guards froze, but suspicion lingered in their glowing eyes. David held out the tag. It was human, someone from Earth. "They want this piece destroyed." The elder studied the tag, his face darkening. "Not just human," he whispered. "This mark, it belongs to those who profit from war." David frowned. "War profiteers? Both sides?" The elder nodded grimly. "Yes. There are humans who grow rich from selling weapons, and aliens who do the same. Together, they form a shadow alliance. They will never allow peace. For them, peace means death to profit." David's chest tightened. He wasn't just caught between humans and aliens, he was caught between those who wanted war forever. The elder leaned on his cane, his glowing eyes sharp. "They fear you most of all, because you prove that trust is possible." David swallowed, hard. "So what now?" The elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "Now, human of honor, you must decide if you will face them, for they will not stop. And the next betrayal may strike harder than this one." The alarm still blared. Smoke curled through the hall. Outside the windows, stars burned cold and endless, and David knew this was no longer about kindness or honor. It was about survival. The final choice. The alien flagship drifted above a scarred moon. Inside its grand council chamber, the tension was sharp as blades. Human generals sat on one side of the long table, alien leaders on the other. Between them stood David, guarded by the crimson-armored squadron. The elder's cane tapped the floor. "Peace must live, or war will burn forever," he declared. General Harker's cold eyes fixed on David. "And you? Where do you stand? You speak for no one but yourself, yet somehow both sides honor you, or fear you." One alien leader hissed, his silver tattoos glowing brighter. "He cannot be trusted. His kind planted the bomb." David's fists tightened. "That wasn't me. You all saw the proof. It was the war profiteers, humans and aliens working together in the shadows." But his words did little. The room rumbled with anger. Leaders shouted, fingers pointed. The fragile thread of peace was snapping. Then Harker stood, his voice was thunder. "Enough. Choose, human. Do you stand with Earth or with them?" The alien leader slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Choose us or die as their traitor." David's chest pounded. Both sides wanted an answer. Both sides wanted him to betray the other. His mind raced, searching for a path that wasn't suicide. And then, darkness. The chamber shook as the lights cut out. A deep alarm blared. Outside the window, small ships emerged from the black void, sleek, fast, armed. Pirates? No. Worse. The war profiteers. Their ships opened fire, blasting the flagship. The council chamber shuddered. Glass cracked. Explosions thundered down the halls. Panic erupted. Guards raised weapons. Leaders ducked behind barriers. Smoke poured in through the vents. Through the chaos, a shadowed voice echoed from the comms. "Peace dies tonight. Let the galaxy burn." David stumbled to the window, watching the profiteer fleet surround the flagship. "They want to kill us all. No sides, no survivors." The elder's eyes narrowed. "Yes. For them, fear and fire are profit." Another explosion tore through the wall. Soldiers screamed as the floor split. The council chamber was falling apart. David's instincts took over. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. "If neither side will choose me, then I'll choose for myself. I'll fight for everyone." He sprinted through the smoke-filled corridors, the alien child's face flashing in his mind. He wasn't a soldier, but he was human. And humans didn't run from impossible odds. Reaching the control bay, David slammed his hand on the panel. Warnings screamed across the screens, shields failing, engines burning. Think, he muttered. He spotted a defense grid control. The flagship had weapons, but they needed manual aim. The crew was gone, or dead. He sat in the chair, hands gripping the controls. Outside, enemy ships darted closer. Their weapons glowed, ready to finish the kill. David fired. The flagship roared back to life, cannons blazing. Explosions lit the void. One enemy ship shattered, then another. But there were too many. For each he destroyed, more swarmed in. Behind him, the elder entered the bay, leaning hard on his cane. "You fight for both. You fight for all. This is why you were chosen." Sweat poured down David's face, his arms ached. "I can't hold them off alone." The elder's voice rose like a storm. "You are not alone." The chamber doors burst open. Humans and aliens rushed in. Soldiers, leaders, even General Harker. For the first time they fought side by side, manning the stations, firing weapons together. The flagship became a fortress. Its cannons spat fire, its shields flared. Human voices shouted orders. Alien voices echoed them. For one moment, the galaxy's enemies saw something they had never seen before. Unity. The profiteers realized too late. Their ships faltered under the combined assault. One by one they exploded, burning against the black sky. When silence finally returned, the battlefield was littered with wreckage. The flagship floated, scarred but alive. David sank back, his body trembling. He had no strength left. But he had made his choice. Not humans. Not aliens. Both. The elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "The war profiteers will rise again. They will never stop. But today they have learned. And tomorrow, they will remember the human who refused to betray." David closed his eyes, his heart heavy but steady. He knew his life would never belong to one world again, because his choice was not for one people, it was for all. The legend of a seat years passed. The galaxy changed, though not as much as dreamers had hoped. Wars did not vanish. Distrust still lived. But something new had begun. Humans and aliens, who once turned their backs on each other, now walked together in markets, studied together in schools, and served side by side in small units of peace patrol. It was not perfect, but it was better. And in the quiet corners of stations and ships, stories were told. Stories of a human who had once given up a simple seat. Children gathered around elders, their eyes wide with wonder. "Tell us again," they begged. The elders would smile and begin. He was no soldier, no leader, just a man in a crowded hall. But kindness made him greater than kings. No one knew where David was now. Some said he disappeared into the stars after the great battle against the profiteers. Some whispered that he had died, his body lost in the fire of space. Others believed he still lived, traveling quietly from world to world, never staying long, always helping where no one else would. In a training hall on Earth, young cadets repeated his name with pride. David, human of honor. His story was woven into their lessons. Courage without power, sacrifice without reward. Some cadets laughed and said it was only a myth. But when they were tested, When fear pressed on them, many remembered the man who stood between two worlds. On an alien moon, a statue rose. It showed a man, plain and simple, offering his seat to a weary elder. No sword, no weapon, no crown, just a gesture of respect. Beneath it, words glowed in many languages. Kindness can change galaxies. But the galaxy was still dangerous. The profiteers had not been destroyed, only wounded. From the shadows, they whispered of revenge. Yet even they spoke carefully when mentioning David's name, for they knew his legacy was more dangerous than any fleet. It was belief. Belief that peace could exist. One night, far from the great cities, in a forgotten port where ships came and went without records, a traveler stepped into a small inn. His face was hidden under a hood. His clothes were plain, his bag light. He asked for nothing but a seat by the fire. An old woman poured him tea. She looked at his tired hands, scarred but steady. She looked at his eyes, carrying weight but also warmth. She did not ask his name. She only whispered, "Thank you for what you gave us." The man gave a small smile, one that held both sadness and peace. It was only a seat. But when he left the next morning, the woman found something carved into the wooden table, a single chair, empty, yet waiting. She touched it and felt a strange calm. She did not tell anyone. Some legends were meant to remain soft, like secrets shared with the stars. And so the galaxy moved forward. Some fought, some built, some betrayed, some healed. But in every world, when someone gave up their comfort for another, whispers began. A seat, just like his. The legend lived not in palaces or war councils, but in the smallest acts, in a drink shared, in a hand offered, in a seat given. And though no one could prove where David went, the truth did not matter. Because sometimes the greatest heroes are not the ones who stay in history books. They are the ones whose kindness lingers forever. Shadows return. The galaxy had grown quieter since the great battle. Trade flowed between worlds, mixed patrols kept the peace, and the name of David was spoken with respect. Statues and stories painted him as a hero who had vanished into the stars. But legends have a way of stirring enemies from the dark. In the black stretch beyond known space, a hidden fleet gathered. Ships without markings, crews without nations. The profiteers had returned. Their leaders, human and alien alike, sat in shadowed halls lit only by the glow of burning maps. One spoke with a voice like gravel. "We lost once, but the galaxy forgets quickly. Peace makes people soft. Now we strike again." Another hissed, "And what of the human of honor? His story still binds them." The first voice growled, "Then we must destroy the story. Legends can be killed if the truth is twisted." Back on Earth, life seemed normal. Children studied, workers built new ships. The council planned cautious treaties. Yet whispers spread, rumors that David had betrayed both sides, that his kindness was only a trick. Old recordings were edited, twisted, played across the networks. Some began to doubt. Maybe he was never a hero. Maybe he wanted power for himself. Maybe the aliens used him. The poison of suspicion spread faster than truth. In the middle of it all, the elder sat alone in his chamber. His body was weaker now, his cane heavier, but his mind remained sharp. He felt the shift, like cold wind before a storm. "They come again," he murmured. "And this time they strike not with weapons, but with lies." One night, on a small frontier station, a ship docked, quietly. No markings, no name. From it stepped a hooded man. His walk was slower than before, but steady. His eyes carried both sorrow and fire. It was David. He had stayed hidden for years, but now he could not remain silent. He saw the lies spreading, felt the doubt rising, and knew the profiteers were moving once more. In the station's marketplace, he overheard merchants speaking. The human of honor? A fake, a puppet. A child frowned, clutching a small carved toy of a chair. But he saved the elder. The merchant laughed bitterly. So the stories say. But who can trust stories? David's heart ached. He realized the enemy's plan was clever. If the people stopped believing in him, then the fragile bridge of peace would crumble on its own. That night, a message reached him. A voice distorted through static. You were warned. Leave the galaxy to us. If you rise again, we will erase not just you, but your legend. David stared at the stars outside the window. He whispered to himself, They fear the story more than me. That means the story must live, even if I don't. The next morning he left the station, traveling deeper into space. He carried no army, no wealth, no flag, only the quiet fire inside him, for he understood something the profiteers never would. A legend cannot be killed by lies alone. It must be faced with truth, lived again through action. And as David's small ship disappeared into the endless dark, he knew the war was not over. The shadows had returned. But so had he. The war of shadows. The shadow fleet spread across the dark edges of space like a silent storm. No flags, no names, only ships armed with weapons built to destroy both human and alien worlds. The profiteers had hidden for years, gathering power, waiting for the right moment. Now they were ready. From his small ship, David watched them from a distance. His vessel was old, patched together from scraps, but its sensors worked well enough. On the screen, hundreds of red dots filled the map. Each dot was a ship. Each ship was death. He whispered to himself, if they move together, the galaxy won't stand a chance. But David was only one man. He had no army, no council, no soldiers. What he did have was truth, and he knew he had to bring proof of this fleet to both sides before the profiteers struck first. He sent a coded signal, a message not to governments but to the Crimson Armored Squadron, the same soldiers who once called him human of honor. If anyone would listen, it was them. Hours passed. Silence filled his cabin. Then finally a voice broke through the static. David, we thought you were dead. He smiled faintly. Not yet. But if you don't see what I see, we'll all be dead soon. Within days, a small strike craft joined him in the void. The Crimson Squadron stepped aboard his ship, their armor scratched but proud. Their leader bowed slightly. Show us. David loaded the scans. The map lit with red. The soldiers fell silent. Even they, trained for war, looked uneasy. This, David said, isn't just a fleet. It's a war machine built for both, humans and aliens. They'll strike at trade lanes, colonies, stations everywhere, and they'll blame each side for it. They want chaos. The leader's jaw tightened. We must tell the councils. David shook his head. No. Councils argue, councils doubt. By the time they believe, it'll be too late. We need proof, something undeniable. And as if the shadows had heard him, proof arrived on its own. The profiteer fleet began to move. David's sensors caught the first strike. A convoy of human supply ships destroyed in seconds. Survivors screamed through comms before vanishing in fire. Minutes later, alien patrol ships met the same fate. Both sides would think the other had attacked. It's begun, David said quietly. The Crimson leader placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we strike now in the dark before their lies spread. David's heart raced. Against that many ships, we'll be slaughtered. Perhaps, the leader said. But perhaps not. You've taught us that one choice can turn the tide. Will you stand again? David looked at the red map. So many dots. So much death waiting. He thought of the child he saved, the protesters who doubted him, the elder who believed in him. He tightened his fists. I'll stand, but not as a soldier, as proof. The plan was reckless. The squadron would infiltrate the fleet, capture one profiteer command ship, and broadcast its orders across the galaxy. If the truth was shown live, no council could deny it. The squadron prepared in silence, checking weapons, strapping on armor. David stood among them, feeling out of place, yet somehow exactly where he needed to be. When their ship launched into the black, the shadow fleet loomed larger with every second. The stars seemed to vanish behind it. David's voice was steady, but his heart thundered. If we fail, the galaxy burns. The leader nodded. Then we do not fail. The small strike. Craft dove into the storm of enemy ships, swallowed by darkness, and the war of shadows began.